is Chopin, and welcome to Disabilities Be Aware. Today I have a special guest, and I'm going to be asking him some questions about the disabilities that he has experience with. Jay, can you tell me a little bit about some of the disabilities that you have experience with?
Yeah, hi Chopin. Um, so I have quite a number of people in my family and circle of friends who have disabilities of various kinds. Just a few of those would be scleroderma, clubfoot affecting mobility, hardness of hearing, blindness, brain injury, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's disease, and autism spectrum.
Okay. So, out of all of those disabilities, the brain injury, the deafness, and the autism spectrum disorder, can you elaborate on more of those disabilities and what they entail, please?
Sure. Um, so with deafness, I have experience with several people. My grandmother, for example, as she aged, became hard of hearing and then deaf. And uh, fortunately, she had close relatives always living nearby who, when I'd go and visit occasionally, um,
Mm-hmm.
then her daughter-in-law, for example, or her granddaughter-in-law would kind of act as an interpreter in a way.
Yeah.
And uh, so I'd be able to talk to her, and she'd kind of read my lips, and um, and and then sometimes her granddaughter-in-law would kind of repeat what I said, like closer to her ear or something, so that she'd understand better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And then I have someone that I know from work also who is very hard of hearing, but she has hearing aids. Um, but you definitely have to be right in front of her, and she's watching you carefully because she's also reading lips as you're speaking. Um, and and then once when we lived in Kansas, I was actually um, partnered up for making visits for church
Mm-hmm.
with a man in our congregation who was completely deaf, and and so we would go make our visits, and one of the guys that we'd go and visit was actually deaf from birth from German measles, and it was really uh, fun experience, and um, I feel like it gave me a lot of uh,
Insight.
I, insight. Yeah, I guess just practical understanding of what it's like to operate in a deaf world, and and then brain injury. I have an uncle who suffered a brain injury in an accident when he was young, like preteen, and because of that, he's been uh, kind of uh, how would you say, like uh, intellectually um, delayed, or his development has been slow and limited, so that he now he's like in his 60s or 70s, and
Yeah.
he has kind of the mental development of like a 14-year-old still.
So
Um,
his brain has it's developed almost to just a 14-year-old. So anything that a 14-year-old do or think, that's kind of
mhm.
how his brain is wired to think.
Right. And and like a very healthy 14-year-old, he enjoys doing a
Mhm.
lot of fun things, movies, and uh, riding on a uh, mountain bike, and all sorts of things. But he doesn't do any kind of really sophisticated work or um, that kind of thing. But he's nice company for family, he likes showing us movies on his old reel-to-reel projector, and I remember that was always fun. Um, and then autism spectrum. I have two of my four children have been diagnosed with autism spectrum, and they're both on the very high functioning side.
Hmm.
But then there's also a couple families I know and I'm close with who have uh, low functioning autistic children.
Okay, okay. So can you elaborate a little bit what the autism spectrum disorder entails? Just a little bit more.
Yeah, um, yeah. So in the case of my two sons, they are able to interact, socially, um, without too much pain to them and without too much difficulty. But um, it's not for very long,
Hmm.
and um, and it's a challenge that they recognize and have to work on. Um, and then there's I would say they get a little bit frustrated if things are not like really clearly laid out, like when there's homework to do or a task to do. Um, they
Like
want,
it's very vague.
yeah, they don't like it to be vague. So it has to be very specific and exactly how long it's going to take. And they have,
Hmm.
you know, they're not happy at all with, something like, well, I don't know how long it's going to take. We'll just work on it till we're tired or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, they like it to be very systematized um, and then with the lower functioning um, autistic um, youths that I know, uh, they have in some cases like very very loud tics, very loud behavior where they'll jump up out of their chair and yell occasionally, and very difficult like sitting down for very long.
Hmm.
Um, and I also have a cousin who is low functioning on the autism spectrum, and she is very sensitive to like sounds or um, visual stimuli, just anything that's overstimulating or that would be normally, stimulating for most people. Um, she will like scream and run away, basically. So
So she's got a
it's
more
something I
like
remember growing up.
heightened sense. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just very
That's
overwhelming
interesting.
for her.
Yeah.
Um, so naturally, in that for those who are low functioning, it's a lot more difficult for them to kind of function in a normal social or work environment. Um,
But
but they
for
can function well. Mhm. They
mhm.
can function okay with people who are understanding, like relatives and such, who know to accommodate them and not to
Yeah.
overwhelm them.
Yeah. Okay, so to go on from that question, thank you so much, is what are some disadvantages to having these disabilities as well as advantages of having these disabilities that we've talked about, which is the brain injury, the deafness, and the autism spectrum disorder?
Mhm. Well, so disadvantages would be um, besides what I mentioned already about the low functioning autism, um, for higher functioning autism, there's still, challenges and maybe things that, like for one of my sons who's in college, a task like a homework assignment that would take most people maybe an hour or two to do will take
Mhm.
him like 10 hours to do because he's going to be very thorough. He feels compelled to be very thorough in his reading about it. Um, he reads everything slowly, like he has to remember it forever. And
Mhm.
Um, and it's just hard to turn that off. I mean, most people can kind of alternate between reading carefully and reading um, skimming or just reading quickly so that you can get on to the next thing
Yeah.
or use the information and then discard it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and and so that's a challenge for him in college because time is limited, and so he's had to adapt to that by taking fewer credits and um, maybe doing less extracurricular things than he would like to do. Um,
That way he can focus on his studies and be able
yeah,
to retain that information that he needs.
right. So that's a disadvantage. But an advantage with at least with high functioning autism is that um, they're able to focus on a project or a field of study for really a long time, where most people would become bored or want to move on to something else. They or just tired of it.
Hmm.
They can really go at it doggedly for a long time. Um,
Yeah.
and of course, that can help with technical fields where you have to really focus on a project. Um, and then as far as the brain injury, um, you know, for for my uncle, um, of course, it's the disadvantage is that it has kept him from being able to do most kind of jobs that adults do. Um,
Hmm.
and so he's been more dependent on his family, um, like a 14-year-old would be.
Yeah.
Like he can take care of himself. He can, do all of his own maintenance, but um, as far as like earning a living, that's difficult for him. Although he can do kind of simple jobs that a
Yeah.
teenager would be able to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like the advantage. I mean, we all love him, and it's wonderful having him in our family.
Hmm.
Um, and he is really fun to be with. Um, and I just feel like it does increase like the understanding and the acceptance of people with disabilities when you have someone in your family um, who has them, and it also kind of promotes like social um, compassion, understanding, and um, yeah, that's definitely something that we need in our families and society. And then as far as the deafness, my grandmother would say that she didn't mind being deaf. She would say that she kind of preferred it because it decreased the distractions around her.
Hmm.
She liked to focus on studying family history, and so she could go to the library and or anywhere, people could be talking, they could be busy around her, and she would be
You
able to
could
focus on,
focus.
yeah, on the thing that she's doing. And she also just her personality type is that um, she thinks that most people don't really have something good to say anyway. And so she's happy to just like block it all out. Um, uh, and then for the other people I know who are deaf, I mean, it is a bit of an impediment not having that sensory input to the sound
Hmm.
and could lead to um, like increased risk of maybe some mishap or accident or something if they're out on the street and um, don't hear something coming.
Like a
But
car or something.
yeah, exactly that kind of thing. Um, but they do learn to cope with that and to be extra careful. You know,
In
even like
crossing.
driving.
Hmm.
It was not really a problem for my partner from church and um, carrying on conversation. He could read lips, he could talk, or he could speak normally, pretty much. And so I don't know that would definitely say that deafness was any kind of an advantage for them, but um, it was definitely something that they could manage and lead a normal life.
Hmm. Hmm. So they got all advantages, all disadvantages, some more than others. Um, and just to add on to that, that even you can have the same disability doesn't exactly mean that that disability is exactly like the other person's, right? You can have,
Mhm.
have autism, someone else have autism, and you can have different things, different stimulations, different hyperfixations, deafness. You can have partially deafness, you can have full
Mhm.
deafness. Same thing with blind. Um, and just brain injury, there's different types of where people, have that mentality of I'm a 14-year-old, or I could be a
Mhm.
6-year-old. Or sometimes I feel a 6-year-old, and then other days I might feel like a 10-year-old. And so it all depends, I think, on how the person was raised, but also, their background and everything,
Mhm.
kind of
And
influences how
I
it
would say
affects
also
them.
the support that's around them that varies. Some people are very fortunate and have family and other social um, supports
Hmm.
that make it so that they are accommodated more and um, are encouraged, and just uh, loved and helped so that they can function more.
Hmm.
Whereas other people, unfortunately,
Don't get that
haven't received
opportunity.
that kind of support, and for them, their disability is more limiting just because they don't um, uh, either the
Know
society
where
around
to
them like
go
doesn't help.
or have
Yeah.
any. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
One good example I think of, finding help is workforce solutions. Um, you have to get into their program and everything, but if you're able to get in the program and they deem that your disability is severe enough, they will help accommodate for you to be able to get a job and get evaluated and things like that. That's how I was evaluated for my autism, as well as I already knew I had learning disabilities, but they were able to identify what types of learning disabilities I had besides my reading disability and um, my math disability as well. So thank you so much for your time, Jay. And I hope you guys like this video and that you can subscribe and follow for more content. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Chopin.